Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today I will be showing you my first tournament. And chess is for everybody, so I tried my hand at over the board chess earlier this year in 2024. It was in January. It was a JMC event, now that stands for Johannesburg Metro Chess. It was an over the board event with a 60-minute time control. So let's have a look at how I got on. I was given the black pieces in round 1, so let's see what got on. So my opponent played d4, and I played knight f6, and we transposed into a Trompowsky, but it very quickly kind of settled into more of a London, where we played this London style system where the bishop comes out this way, and I'm playing it like a reverse London. He developed his knight, I developed my bishop. He took, and I took with the pawn. I thought this was an interesting idea because it now means he can't jump his knight into the center, and my knight can come out to c6. So he played the typical London move c3. I brought out my knight. He castled. I played queen to e7. It was just a bit of a waiting move. I didn't like queen to d7. I wanted queen to e7 because I wanted to push e5. And I thought maybe there's a possibility I castle queenside. Uh, so my opponent plays the move c3. Sorry if that is shifting around. I took, he took, and then I played d5 again. So now my pawns are undoubled. He retreats his bishop, and I didn't like that there were tactics if my knight moved, so I castled first, and then after he played a3, I played a5 because I thought he wanted b4, and then he played knight to c3. I saw that there were maybe some tactics that would ruin my pawn structure, so I retreated my bishop. So far, it's all equal. If I turn on the evaluation, it's all very much level. If you let the engine think, it thinks I've done a fine job so far. My preliminary rating's 800 and I'm playing a 1372. So he plays rook to c1 and I play this move f5, just securing my knight in the center. He retreats his knight, maybe looking to reroute it this way. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I will, move my bishop along. Now pins that knight if this knight actually moves out the way. So here he develops his knight. It hits my bishop. And I just take the knight. Takes. And that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. There was a better move at my disposal. Instead of taking the knight, oops, sorry, that the image seems to have shifted around. Let me see if I can fix that. Yeah, that's better. Sorry, I don't know why the image shifted. Okay, so we should be fine again. Yeah, it didn't want me to take the knight. It wanted me here to take on f3 rather with the bishop. It thinks this knight is very good and I shouldn't have given it up. But I took, and then played this move e5, which I thought was my whole idea. Apparently it's not. It's a very bad move because it weakens both of these pawns. I thought, oh, I'm threatening, e4. I'm going to get a fork. No, because he takes. And here, he can play knight takes, his queen hangs. But he retreats his bishop, so now his knight's not pinned anymore. I took, and I just exchanged everything. And now I'm just much worse because all my pawns are weak, and unfortunately my opponent goes on very swiftly to put pressure on all my pawns to win one, to trade off the queens, and to just get into a winning rook endgame. And I was up on time, but it doesn't matter when you're lost on the board. And here it's still not that bad. It's like 1.7, but I just can't find the right way to actually play this out. My rook was too passive. I never created any threats. I let him win this pawn, which was a problem, because now he has a passer, and it does not get any better, as very quickly I just lose all my pawns. I tried to create some counterplay eventually, and here I thought I might have a draw, but after this I realized I can give one last check, he will block and then promote, and I trust that he will be able to mate me with just a rook, so I resigned. So I lost my first ever over the board game in a professional tournament. So let's go to game 2 then. I've got the white pieces. So let's see if I could do any better. And I played an Italian. This is one of the first openings I learned. I was very comfortable playing it. He played bishop to c5, so we go into the Gioco Pianissimo. This quiet move d3, so we're going for like a maneuvering game. As you often get in the Italian, we play h3, h6. He plays this move d3, and I play h4. Because the idea is take space on the queen side, and potentially you get b4 trapping the bishop. So he plays a5, giving the bishop an escape square back that way. Then castles, and then knight here to d2. It's a typical Italian idea. You bring the rook to e1 and you rotate your knight out to g3. He here brought his bishop out, and here I thought I found a very interesting idea. I retreated my bishop first, which is what you're supposed to do, and when he played this move d5, I found a very cute idea. It's a spin-off of the center fork trick, if you've ever seen that, and I took here on e5. It doesn't think it's a good move, but it's not losing, because after 95 I get the fork, and even though he can take with the bishop, which the engine doesn't like, and he lands his knight in the center. The reason it's not a good thing is because I can attack the knight. I've now locked the center. This bishop is bad, and his knight has to retreat. He first throws in the in-between move of taking, and now here, rook c1. The knight retreats, and I'm better. In my second game, I found a way to complicate the position, and I'm better. But I need to play f4, which I do, and he plays f5. That is the best move. Now I must just play rook c3 and bring the rook across. But I don't do that. I play the knight out to f3, which is still fine. I'm still better. But, you want to be as clinical as possible. And he plays this move b3, which doesn't make sense to me, because I thought the knight was going there and it was going to try and come forward. But he found an interesting idea, which after queen e1, which takes its eyes off this, but I want to rotate my queen out this way. He plays this move c5. He's going to strike back at the center. I just ignored and I got my king off this diagonal. Because in my calculations I thought, oh, the queen coming out here could be a problem. My bishop's loose in points. So he shoves this pawn forward. He doesn't want to take here. But I think now my bishop actually looks good on this diagonal if I can ever achieve g4. Which, the move h3 on move whatever it was, 4 or 5, kind of helps. So he retreats the knight, and I thought that looked strange to me. I was like, surely that's not a good move. But he's actually got a sound idea. He's bringing the knight here, where it targets this, and can always come this way if need be. The problem with pushing a4 is this square is forever weak. So I also dip my knight back, but that's because I would like to play g4. And now my advantage is very quickly fading away, particularly after he plays knight to c6, targeting this pawn. And here I'm still better if I play queen f2, which still protects this and still allows this. But I don't do that. Instead, I go g4 right away, and I just hang the center pawn. It hits my bishop. I don't want him to take my bishop, so I play bishop to b1. But now he hits the rook. The rook slides to c3. But now look at this. Look at this. I've allowed too much with these pawns coming through. I should not have ignored this whole side of the board. I was focused on trying to attack the king side. Now that my rook retreats and now my bishop is dead, it will never see the light of day again. Although I can take here opening my rook, they just take with the bishop, and now my king is potentially a lot weaker. This pawn is very easy to target. I can put my knight in the way, but the queen comes in now, hitting the rook and targeting this. So I give a check. I thought I found a very good idea. The point is, what I wanted was rook here, and I wanted this. I wanted this. I wanted to get this, but very cold king h8, and I have nothing. So I just end up having to sacrifice the knight, and I think, okay, it's fine. I've got something here. I've got nothing. He just brings his rook firstly, so now I can't even take this. I bring my rook, sacrificing another piece, but he can't take this, and If bishop takes, I would have probably taken with the rook. So bishop takes, rook takes. I hit the queen. I threaten more problems here, but he just brings his other rook, and I've got nothing. I'm going down in game 2, and he just swiftly converts and puts me out of my misery. I tried my best to keep the queen on the board to harass, but he found this move, exchanging the queens. And here I thought, oh, maybe there's a chance. I can try and force a draw. Maybe, if I can win something. But he just goes here, and I resign. So, 2 games, 2 L's in my first tournament. If you thought I was going to win 5 out of 5, not yet. We're working to get better. These were really good players, and I was not used to this time control. The first time we play 60 minutes, they're using 40, 50 of their minutes, and I used like 20, 30, so I wasn't used to, thinking for that long. And it shows, it really does show. So we move on to game 3. I've got the black pieces again, against now a 1183. So the ratings keep going down. So hopefully I should be able to beat one of these people eventually. And we get Caro-Kann defense with e4 c6. It was the advance. I brought out the bishop, classical mainline. He went for a tall, and I, didn't allow my bishop to get trapped in an over-the-board game. I do know that much. And he brought out his knight, which I don't think is a good move in the not the Sicilian, in the Caro-Kann. I think you're meant to play c3, but based on how I was playing at this moment, I could think it's a bad move. It's probably not too bad. He brings out his knights, he develops them. He doesn't trade off the light squared bishops. I just develop my knights very passively, because their normal natural squares that they would go to are blocked. So I'm developing them as best as I can. I play queen to c7, unpinning my knight, so now I can move out this way if I wanted to. And he brings his queen up, opening up both ways to castle. So I just bring my knight out, saying, okay, whatever you're going to do, buddy, I will be ready for it. A3, another waiting move. I bring my knight in, take. He castles, and now I can plop my knight into the center of the board, which I thought, big win for me. It's only 0.5, which is not that bad. I thought if he takes, I strengthen my center, and I think I'm doing alright. So he drops his knight back. I develop my bishop, and he finishes the rotation of his knight out to the king side. I was like, okay, I want my bishop out the way. I don't want him to take and ruin my pawn structure, so I will rather put my bishop here and threaten to take his knight and ruin that pawn structure. So he rotates his knight this way. A lot of the knights maneuvering around. And I was like, okay, long castles. I'm better now. I'm better with black, or I was. I was better here if I played f6 and started to break out and cause problems on the king side. It doesn't mind long castles, but it thinks you should have played f6 first, because now my bishop has to go back, and he can capture like this, and now my structure is split, and he just trades off a bunch of pieces, and now I might have some problems coming in on the queen side, because especially these pawns are doubled, and he's got easy counterplay when you castle on both sides. I'm better, but only if I play f4, which you would have to, I can't explain to you. I suppose the idea, if we go back a move, is f4. Oh, they want white to play f4 rather, sorry. Yeah, so queen there, I block, and he takes the pawn. I move my king over, he brings the rook, I take, and I don't know if you heard that noise, but that's a check, right? In this position, over the board, I took this pawn. And then my opponent paused the clock and lifted his hand, and I couldn't believe it. Because that's an illegal move. Like, chess.com won't let me take this. It says you can't do that. Like, I want to do this, it starts flashing my king red and making fart noises at me. Like, I don't know how I didn't see this was a check, and I took that pawn instead. So what it means is my opponent gets extra time, because I made a move that you're not allowed to do. So here he forced the queen's raid. So I took, and I brought my other rook. I was like, okay, now we're much worse. We are much, much worse. Because I thought I could always take this pawn. I forgot that there was a check. So in my calculations, I was like, well, I'm winning that pawn. The queen stays on the board. I'm pretty active, but there's just nothing I can do. And this is a horrible endgame from me. At this point, I was tilted from my horrible play. Here, my knight's just hanging, right? My knight's hanging. He doesn't take it. He just continues putting pressure on the with this passed pawn and on. I say the queen side. I was going to say the king side, but it is the queen side where my king is located. And here, right, he can just take, and push, and my rook can't get back. And he does that. So I try to go here, and I trade, and I'm like, okay, he's going to have to mate me. So take, and here, the game ends. But it's because I made another illegal move. I didn't lose because of it, but I took this pawn and didn't realize this was check. That's how tilted I was. Um, yeah, so I made the move. He was like, it's another illegal move. He paused the clock, and then I was like, okay, I just resigned. I'm not doing this. You don't need to have even more time on the clock. Not that he... I was thinking, okay, maybe I can flag him. But that with that, he would get an extra couple minutes, and I was just completely lost. So we go to game 4. After this third game, I walked with my father because we were at Wits University by the cricket field. I walked with my father around the field and we watched a bit of the cricket game and we had a chat and it really calmed me down. And I think that's evident in this game. So I changed my opening. I went for now a Roy Lopez, which is what I was studying before the tournament. He played the Berlin. I played an anti-Berlin. He brought his bishop out like an Archangels. So my opponent Yakesh is 1076. So hopefully it'll be a good game. I played what you're supposed to play, c3, the bishop will rotate this way and come back. He brought his knight out, and here is where the alarm bells start going off. Because I'm like, why would you make this move? Because I'm just going to castle, and you are more than welcome to sack the 2 pieces for my rook. So I castled, which is what you're supposed to do. Hopefully that didn't shift it too much. It did, so let me put it back. That looks fine, I think a little more. Sorry about that. Chess.com's got a weird new feature. Okay. And now he plays d6, which I think is a bad move. So I attack the bishop. And the reason is because it has to go there. Because it's take, take. Because it's here, take, take. The bishop goes there. And now I go here. And I kick the bishop all the way back to that square. And it had to be on that square because now I can play d5. Yes, this bishop is reopened, but this knight is dead. It can't move because of the pin, and before you could push both these pawns to get my bishop off that diagonal, now you can't. So he moves his bishop, I take with the pawn, he takes with the pawn, and I just bring my bishop back. I didn't like going this way. I wanted to go back so that I have reinforced this knight. I don't know why, I just had visions of throwing this away. I put my bishop now on this long diagonal, and I'm like, okay, I'm up a piece. I'm up a piece for a pawn. Just don't do anything stupid, because you've been in better positions already in a couple of the games. I was better in my previous game with white. Just don't throw it away again. That's all I wanted. I was like, just don't throw away again. Get the win. Get on the board. The queen came out. I attacked the knight. The knight retreated, and I was like, you're up a pieces. Let's go. Knight takes. And he took with the pawn, which to me was stupid. Because now he's got these 2 double pawns that are isolated, and the queen no longer sees my e-pawn, which I thought was important. I bring my knight out, I'm just going to develop it. He brings the queen out, and I was like, oh, free way to trade pieces. I'm just going to bring my bishop here, because it attacks the queen and attacks the bishop, and I'll just trade. And he gives me a pawn for it, and he gives me a pawn, because he played f4 to try and block, and I was like, well, that's a free pawn. And I sacks the rook. So now he's desperately, with these bishops and the queen and his one remaining rook, trying to attack my king. So as long as I can defend my king and not get mated, I should have more than enough to trade off. And I find this move. That bishop now cannot go anywhere without being traded. So he brings the rook, and I snap off the bishop. I'm like, alright. I have a bishop versus a light squared bishop. So that means that while he's attacking, he's got initiative, because my dark squared bishop can't defend against his light squared bishop. And normally in my head, I would be worried about endgames. But at this point, I'm up a rook. Like, I'm up a rook for a pawn. I should win this game. So I give a check. He blocks with the bishop, and I rotate my queen out this way. I'm like, okay, maybe he's going to hangmate. Because now I can actually kind of create my own bit of counterplay. He brings the bishop in to attack my rook. I just slide my rook over one square, and now everything I own sees this pawn, except that rook. That pawn is now dead. The queen goes here, and this fails to a tactic, which I find. I was really happy. I take the queen, and when he takes, I take the rook. And from here, it's just about cleaning up. It's give a check. Now I'm hunting the king. I just need to find a way to checkmate, and I find it. We checkmate on the board. We get the W. Yes, we are 1 out of 4, but at one point it looked like we weren't even going to get one, so we're on the board. Let's go. Alright, final game. All I'm going to say about this game is don't ever resign in chess anymore. Like, I resigned in this tournament already because I was completely lost. But here is why you should play on even if the worst happens. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's flip the board to my perspective. It's the final game. I've just got my win. I'm like, okay, let's finish this tournament strong. By this point, I had been at the university for over 12 hours. Because these games are like 2 hours long because you each get 60 minutes. And then there's breaks in between of about 10 minutes while they sort out the pairings. So I've been there for like 10 to 12 hours by now. So I play another Caracan. My black openings are not as flexible. And we play a classical again. And again we get knight to c3. And I play the same way. But with c5, the queen comes out. I just move my queen over a square. It gets attacked by the knight, which I'm not happy about. And I play here. I didn't like this maneuver of the queen because now he's better. I didn't like it, but I thought maybe it should still be fine. Because he moves his knight back. I don't know why. So I attack the bishop, and I bring my knight out. I'm like, okay, no, this is all fine. This is a bit of a cryptic move. I'm like, okay, now I've got to be better. So you can see we're already a bit loopy. The eval bar going up and down, but you've not seen anything yet. This belongs in the Gotham Chess's How to Lose a Chess. So I invited trade of dark squared bishops, which gives away all my advantage. And he does nothing. I'm like, oh, easy. I'm going to win a pawn. Take, take, take. And here, ladies and gentlemen, disaster strikes. Because he takes my bishop. And there is one and only one way to capture that knight back. And I have to take with the pawn. And I think you can tell that I don't do that. I take with the knight. The Eva ball plummets because he plays bishop to b5. And he pins my queen to my king. And my heart sank. I cannot tell you how much I wanted to resign. But I was like, no, I will not resign. I'm up a pawn, and I'm at least going to get the bishop back, so I'm going to long castle, and I'm going to create counterplay. We're going to play this game for all that it's worth. He castles. I'm like, okay, maybe there's a way I can get a fork and get the queen back. It's fine. Let's keep going. f6. He brings the knight in. It's fine. I slide my king over to defend that square, and he can take. I bring my knight. I'm like, look, I'm just going to activate all my pieces. I've still got 2 rooks, 2 knights. I'm going to bring them all as best as I can. I'll double them on the F file if I can get my arrows to go to the F file. And we will see what we can cook up. He slides his rook over. I slide my rook over. I've got to defend my pawn. At the end of the day, I've got to defend my pieces. He brings his queen out. I'm like, okay. Kick out the knight and plonk my knight in the center. And there are some times where maybe, just maybe, I can get a fork. He gives a check. I slide my king over. I'm like, oh, if that rook and that knight aren't guarding that square, maybe I can get a fork. Maybe, just maybe. He slides his rook over, protecting that pawn, which was hanging. I slide my rook. I'm like, look, I've got to go for it. Got to go for it. He brings his knight out. I'm like, oh, that's not scary. I'm going to just plonk my knight in the center. You used to guard that square, so I'm going to go there. And I hit the queen. And here he sacrifices the rook. I take the rook, and he takes this pawn. And I'm back in the game! Because I get the fork! Not only do I hit the queen, I hit the king, and I also randomly hit that rook. And then here, So it's the king moves over, and I take on g3, and now I'm up in exchange because I've got two rooks. He's got knight rook. I'm up in exchange, so I'm like, great. I'm gonna end the tournament with 2 wins. So I bring my rook. I'm like, just don't get forked. Just don't get forked. So give a check. Just don't get forked. Just don't get forked. Like that's it. I'm like, where can this knight go? Just don't lose one of your rooks, and you'll be fine. So I attack the knight, and here, ladies and gentlemen, this knight comes here. What have I been saying to you for the last 30 seconds? Don't get forked. Here, I cannot tell you. In 5 seconds, I was like, oh, I'm going to trade pieces. I'm like, look, rook takes, pawn takes. I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, rook takes, pawn takes, and knight c8 check and fork. And here he takes my rook, he takes all my pawns, and there's a funny thing that comes up. Given how poorly we were playing, I don't know if you would have noticed it. So here I can promote to a queen. I can promote to a queen, but he's got a fork. So if I go here and I promote, he can go here and give me a check and take my new queen and then queen. So naturally, we didn't do that. I took another pawn. Now he has to bring the knight back. And I pushed this pawn and it queens. And I was like, all right, let's see if he's going to mate me. I'm going to play it out till checkmate because maybe he won't mate me because I don't trust either of us to win this position. He gives me a check. I slide my king up, check, and mate. And my first tournament concludes with me winning 1 game out of 5. I finished with 1 out of 5, but I did gain rating. I did gain rating, and I will make another video. I played another tournament in the year, and spoilers, it went a lot better. So we shall see what happened in that. It will be coming out soon. I'm starting all sorts of series, so let me know what you would really like to see. And this series will be called The Road to Glory. So I am ripping off a few things. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment down below what you would like to see, how I can improve these videos, and until next time, goodbye.